Welcome to Unlocking Passion. Men Report. Let's begin with a new story. I returned to my apartment in Pattaya on a humid Tuesday morning in September, carrying grocery bags for the dinner gift had asked me to cook with her that evening. The 3 flights of stairs to our apartment on Soy Buakau. My knees hurt, as they always did. But my heart was light, because I was coming home to someone who loved me. When I pushed the door open, I found nothing but empty rooms and the faint scent of her jasmine perfume hanging in the air. The furniture was gone. The television we had bought together was gone. The rice cooker, the dishes, the framed photos of us smiling on the beach, everything was gone. On the kitchen counter lay a single note in her handwriting. "Sorry, Papa Jerry. I have to go now. Please understand. Gift." Standing alone in that high apartment at that moment, I realized that I had given her everything. $300,000, my trust, my last years of dignity. And she had taken it all without looking back. My name is George Walters, but everyone calls me Jerry. I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I managed a truck fleet for 40 years before I retired. I saved every dollar I could, lived modestly, and built a retirement fund of $420,000. I had a pension that paid me $300 a month. I should have been comfortable. I should have been safe. But I made one catastrophic mistake. I believed that a 28-year-old Thai bar girl named Gift actually loved me. If you enjoy the stories I create, please consider pressing the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me find time to create these videos despite my full-time job. Thank you for being here. That winter was the hardest of my life. My wife Barbara had died of cancer 18 months earlier, and I was still living in our house in Milwaukee, surrounded by her things, her scent, her absence. Every morning I woke up and reached across the bed for her, forgetting for just 1 second that she was gone. Then reality came crashing back, and I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering what the point of anything was. Barbara and I had been married for 38 years. We had met in high school, married young, and built a quiet, simple life together. We never had children. She could not have them, and we had made peace with that. But we had been enough for each other. She worked as a school secretary. I managed trucks. We saved money, went to church on Sundays, and took vacations in Florida every February. When she became ill, I watched her fade over 2 brutal years. The chemotherapy, the hospital visits, the hope that became smaller and smaller until there was nothing left but waiting. She died on a Tuesday morning in April 2020, holding my hand, telling me that she loved me, and asking me to promise that I would not spend the rest of my life alone. I promised her, but after she was gone, I did not know how to keep that promise. I really tried. I went to the senior center and sat through bingo nights where people my age talked about their grandchildren and asked polite questions about my wife. I joined a church group, but everyone there had their routines, their circles of friends, their lives, and there was no room for a grieving man who did not know how to talk about anything except trucks and Barbara. Milwaukee felt empty. The winters were brutal. The house was too big, too quiet, too full of memories that hurt. Every evening I sat in the living room, watched television I did not care about, ate frozen meals, and felt the years I had left shrinking into nothing. My only real friend was a guy named Tom, whom I had worked with for 20 years. He had retired a few years before me and had traveled in Asia. One evening in December, he called me and told me about Thailand, specifically Pattaya. He said it was warm, cheap, and full of life. He said it was a place where guys like us, older men who were invisible and alone back home, could feel wanted again. "Jerry," he said, "you are dying over there in Milwaukee. You are just waiting to die. Come to Thailand. Just visit us. See what it is like. The worst thing that happens is that you get some sun and good food. The best thing that happens? You remember what it feels like to be alive." I told him I would think about it, but the truth was that I had already decided, because he was right. I was not dying physically, but in every other way, I was folding up my tents. I booked a flight for January 2020, 1 month in Thailand. I told myself it was only a vacation, only a break from the cold and the loneliness, but deep inside I was hoping for something more. I was hoping to feel something again, anything. I landed at Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok on a Wednesday afternoon, and the heat hit me like a wall the moment I stepped outside. It was 34 degrees Celsius, humid and thick. After months of Milwaukee winter, it felt like stepping into another world. Tom had arranged a taxi to take me straight to Pattaya, about 2 hours south. He had booked me into a small hotel on Soi Buakau, a street he described as the heart of expat life. The drive to Pattaya was overwhelming. The highways were chaotic. Motorbikes wove between cars, trucks loaded with goods, and billboards in Thai script that I could not read. Everything felt foreign, loud, and alive in a way Milwaukee had not felt in years. When we arrived in Pattaya, the city stunned me. It was early evening, and the streets were full of people. Neon signs glowed in every direction, advertising bars, massage parlors, restaurants, and hotels. Music poured out of open-air beer bars, where Thai women in shorts and bikini tops sat on stools and waved to men walking past. Motorbikes sped by, some carrying entire families. Street vendors grilled meat on makeshift carts and filled the air with smoke and the smell of spices I did not recognize. Tom met me at my hotel, a modest, 3-story building with a small lobby and a pool in the courtyard. He looked tanned, relaxed, and younger than I remembered. He grinned when he saw me and slapped me on the shoulder. "Welcome to paradise, Jerry," he said. "You are going to love it here." On that first night, Tom took me to Walking Street, Pattaya's most famous nightlife strip. It was everything I had heard and more. The street was closed to cars, packed with tourists and expats, lined with bars playing music so loud you could feel it in your chest. Girls stood in the doorways of go-go bars and called out to passing men. Lights flashed. Drinks flowed. Everyone seemed to be having the time of their life. Tom led me into a bar called Candy Girls. Inside, women danced on a stage under colored lights, and a bartender poured us beers without asking what we wanted. Tom leaned over and shouted above the music, "This is what I mean, Jerry. You cannot tell me this is not better than sitting alone in Milwaukee." He was right. It was better, but it also felt overwhelming, almost too much. These women were young, beautiful, and confident in a way that made me feel old and out of place. I sipped my beer and watched Tom laugh and flirt with a dancer who could not have been older than 25. He seemed so relaxed, so natural. I felt like an imposter. After an hour, We left and walked to a quieter side street called Soy 7. Tom said that this area had smaller, friendlier bars where you could actually talk to people. We stopped at a place called Lucky Star. It was just a row of stools facing the street, a small bar with a few bottles of liquor on a shelf, and a television showing a football match. 3 women sat behind the bar, talking to each other in Thai, and one of them smiled at me when we sat down. "Sawasdee ka," she said, pressing her palms together in a traditional Thai greeting. I nodded awkwardly, not knowing how to respond. Tom ordered us beers, and we sat there drinking and talking. The bar was relaxed, almost intimate. The woman who'd had greeted me brought us bowls of peanuts and asked in broken English where we came from. When I said America, she smiled and said, "America, good." "First time Pattaya," I nodded. She laughed, a sweet, genuine sound, and said, "Welcome." "You like?" "I think so," I said, and she smiled wider. Her name was Nok, and she was not pushy or aggressive like some of the women I had seen on Walking Street. She was kind, warm, and made me feel welcome. For the first time in months, I felt myself relax. The beer, the warm night air, the easy conversation, all of it felt good. It felt like something I had been missing for a very long time. We stayed for hours at Lucky Star. Nok made sure our beers were refilled, asked about Milwaukee, told us about her village in Isan, and laughed at Tom's jokes. When we finally left, I felt lighter than I had in years. Tom looked at me as we walked back to the hotel and said, "See, Jerry, I told you. This place can save you." I said nothing, but I think a part of me believed him. I spent my first week in Pattaya exploring. I walked along the beach, ate in cheap Thai restaurants, where meals cost less than $3, and sat in air-conditioned cafes, reading books I had brought from home. Tom checked on me every few days, took me to different bars, and introduced me to other expats. Men like us, retirees from America, Europe, and Australia, were all living in Pattaya for the same reasons: the weather, the affordability, and the company. But I kept going back to Lucky Star. There was something comforting about it. The staff remembered me, greeted me by name, and treated me like a regular, even though I had only been there a few times. Nok always smiled when she saw me, and we talked about simple things: her family, my life back home, the differences between Thailand and America. It was on my 8th night in Pattaya that I met Gift. I arrived at Lucky Star around 7 in the evening, just as the sun was going down and the street was beginning to fill with people. Nok was not there that night, and another woman was working behind the bar. She was younger than Nok, maybe in her late 20s, with long black hair tied back in a ponytail, and a shy, reserved manner that immediately stood out. Most of the bar girls I had met were loud, playful, and aggressive in their flirting. This woman was quiet, almost hesitant, and when she brought me my beer, she did not try to sit next to me or ask me to buy her a drink. "Thank you," I said. She nodded, gave a small smile, and went back to wiping the bar. I watched her for a while. She moved efficiently, did not laugh loudly like the other girls, and seemed almost uncomfortable in the bar environment. After about 20 minutes, she looked at me and said in soft, halting English, "You American?" "Yes," I said. "From Milwaukee, Wisconsin." She nodded slowly, clearly not knowing where that was, and said, "I am Gift." "First time here in this bar?" "No, I have been here a few times, but this is the first time I have met you." She smiled, a real shy smile, and said, "I am new. Only 2 weeks." Something about the way she said it, The vulnerability, the uncertainty, made me want to keep talking. I asked her where she came from, and she said Buriram, a province in northeastern Thailand. She said she had come to Pattaya to work because her family needed money. Her mother was sick, she said, and the hospitals in her village were too expensive. I felt a wave of sympathy. I knew what it was like to watch someone you loved suffer because of medical bills. Barbara's cancer treatment had drained our savings before the insurance line finally stepped in. I told Gift about Barbara, about losing her, and Gift listened quietly, her eyes soft with understanding. "I am sorry," she said. "Very sad." "You good man." "I see that." It was such a simple thing to say, but it touched me more than I expected. No one had called me a good man in a long time. No one had looked at me the way she looked at me, as if I mattered. We talked for hours that night. Her English was limited, but we managed. She told me she did not like working in the bar, that she did not drink alcohol, and that she was only doing this job because she had no choice. She said she wanted to save money, go back to her village and take care of her mother. She said she prayed every night that things would get better. When I finally left, she walked me to the edge of the bar and said, "You come back, Papa Jerry." "Papa Jerry?" I asked, surprised. She smiled shyly. "You like father. Kind. Good. I call you Papa." Something about that nickname broke something open inside me. I nodded and said, "Yes, I will come back," and I did. The next night, and the night after that, and the night after that. Over the next 2 weeks, I went to Lucky Star every single evening. Gift was always there, and she always greeted me with that shy smile and called me Papa Jerry. She sat with me when the bar was not busy, and we talked about everything. Her village, her family, my life in Milwaukee, my marriage to Barbara. She asked questions no one had asked me in years. She wanted to know what I liked to eat, what movies I watched, what I missed most about home. She told me she did not go out with customers. She said most men who came into the bar wanted only one thing, and she was not that kind of girl. She said she had been raised Buddhist, that her grandmother had taught her to be respectful and modest, and that working in a bar made her feel ashamed. She said she dreamed of leaving, starting over, finding a good man who would treat her with respect. I began buying her drinks. Lady drinks, as they called them, small glasses of juice or soda that cost me 150 baht, but gave her a commission. I did not mind. I wanted her to sit with me. I wanted her company. For the first time since Barbara's death, I felt that someone actually cared about me. One evening, she told me that her mother's condition was getting worse. She said the hospital was demanding money in advance before they would continue treatment, and her family did not have it. She showed me a photo on her phone, a frail-looking woman lying in a hospital bed, tubes in her arms, pale and weak. "How much do you need?" I asked. Gift quickly shook her head. "No, Papa, I not ask you for money. I only worry. I tell you because you listen. You understand, but I wanted to help. I had spent my whole life working, saving, being responsible. What was the point of having money if I could not use it to help someone I cared about?" "How much gift?" I asked again. She hesitated, then said softly, 30,000 baht, but I cannot ask you. Too much. 30,000 baht was about $900. It was not nothing, but it was not impossible. I told her I would help. She began to cry and said I was too kind, that she did not deserve it, that she would pay me back. I told her not to worry. I told her I wanted to help. The next day, I went to an ATM and withdrew the cash. When I gave it to her that evening, she cried again and hugged me tightly. She smelled of jasmine and soap, and I held her a moment longer than I should have, feeling something I had not felt in years, needed. After that, everything changed. Gift began texting me every morning, asking how I had slept, wishing me a good day. She sent me photos of food she was eating, flowers she saw on the street, little glimpses into her life. She began calling me late at night just to talk, her voice soft and sleepy. She said she felt safe when she spoke with me. Tom noticed it. One evening, he pulled me aside and said, "Jerry, be careful. I know Gift seems sweet, but these girls are professionals. They know how to make you feel special. Do not get in too deep." I told him he was wrong. Gift was not like the others. She was different. She had not asked me for money, except that one time for her mother, and even then, she had been hesitant. She was not working me. She really cared about me. Tom did not push further, but I could see the worry in his eyes. He had been in Thailand long enough to know how these things went, but I convinced myself that he was just cynical and jaded. He did not understand what Gift and I had. By the end of my first month in Pattaya, I had extended my stay. I was not ready to go back to Milwaukee. I was not ready to leave Gift. In March 2020, I rented a small one-bedroom apartment on Soi Buakaw. It was on the third floor of an older building, with a balcony overlooking the street, a small kitchen, and a bedroom with a fan and an air conditioner that rattled when it ran. The rent was 9,000 baht a month, less than $300. It felt so real to have my own place in a foreign country, but it also felt right. For the first time since Barbara's death, I felt that I was building something again. Gift began spending more and more time at the apartment. She came after her shifts at the bar, sometimes stayed overnight, sometimes just sat with me on the balcony while I drank a beer and she sipped water. She began cooking for me. Simple Thai dishes like fried rice, pad kra pao, and tom yum soup. She said she wanted to take care of me, that I had been alone for too long. One evening, she told me she wanted to leave the bar. She said she hated it, that it made her feel dirty, and that she only stayed because she needed the money. She said if she had a choice, she would leave tomorrow. "Then leave," I said. "I will help you." She looked at me, surprised. "Papa, you already help me so much. I cannot ask for more." "You are not asking," I said. "I am offering. How much do you earn at the bar?" She hesitated, then said, 12,000, 15,000 baht a month. Depends on customers. 15,000 baht was about $450. I could easily afford that. My pension alone was 3,000 a month, and I had not touched my savings. I told her I would give her 15,000 baht every month if she left the bar and stayed with me. She cried. She said I was the best man she had ever met, that she did not deserve me, that she would never forget my kindness. She moved in 2 days later. Life with Gift felt like a dream. She was attentive, affectionate, and made me feel that I mattered. She woke up early and made me coffee. She did my laundry, cleaned the apartment, and greeted me with a smile when I came back from my daily walks. She sat with me while I read or watched television, her head on my shoulder, her hand in mine. We began going out together, walking along the beach, eating in small Thai restaurants, visiting temples. She introduced me to her friends, other Thai women who worked in bars or restaurants, and they all seemed to like me and called me Papa Jerry, just like she did. Tom remained skeptical. He saw us together and shook his head, muttering warnings I did not want to hear. Other expats I had met told me stories about men who had been scammed, who had lost everything to bar girls playing the long game. But I did not listen. I was happy. Gift made me happy. That was all that mattered. One evening, about 3 months after she had moved in, Gift told me about her dream. She said she had always dreamed of opening a small restaurant. Something simple, where she could cook Thai food for tourists and locals. She said it was something she had thought about since she was a girl, watching her mother cook in the village kitchen. "I think you would be great at it," I said. She smiled sadly. "Only dream, Papa. Too expensive. I never have money for that." "How much would it cost?" She shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe 1 million, 1.5 million baht for rent, for kitchen, for everything. 1.5 million baht was about $45,000. It was a lot of money, but it was not impossible. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings. I could afford to invest in a restaurant if it meant securing our future, giving Gift the life she dreamed of, and building something together. I did not tell her that night, but the idea began to grow in my mind. What if we did it together? What if I helped her open a restaurant and we ran it as partners? It could be our project, our life, our future. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. In June 2020, I told Gift that I wanted to help her open the restaurant. She was sitting on the balcony folding laundry when I brought it up. She looked at me with wide eyes, disbelief written across her face. "Papa, you serious?" "I mean it," I said. "I want to do this with you. We will find a location, set everything up, and run it together. It will be our business." She began to cry, as she always did when I did something kind for her. She hugged me tightly and said, "You too good. I love you, Papa. I love you so much." It was the first time she said she loved me. I held her tight and felt something I had not felt in years: purpose. We began looking for locations the following week. Gift knew Pattaya well, and she took me to different areas, pointing out spaces that were available for rent. We looked at places on Soi Buakau, near Walking Street, and in quieter side streets. Gift said the location had to be central enough to attract tourists, but not so expensive that the rent would eat up our profits. We found a place on Soi 8, a small shop front with a kitchen in the back, room for about 10 tables, and a rent of 55,000 baht a month. Gift loved it immediately. She said it was perfect, that she could already imagine how it would look, how she would decorate it, what dishes she would serve. The landlord wanted 6 months' rent in advance, 210,000 baht, about $6,300. Gift said we would also need money for kitchen equipment, furniture, permits, and initial supplies. She estimated that the total cost would be around 1,200,000 baht. It was more than I expected, but I wanted to do it properly. I did not want to cut corners and risk the business failing. I transferred money from my savings account in Milwaukee to my Thai bank account. It took a few days to clear, and during that time, Gift was trembling with excitement, talking constantly about the restaurant, about the future, about how we would make it work. When the money cleared, I gave it to Gift. She had to handle the payments, she said, because in Thailand everything had to be in the name of a Thai person. Foreigners could not own businesses directly. She said she would set up a company in her name, but I would be the partner, the investor, the one who made everything possible. I trusted her completely. Over the next month, Gift said she was taking care of everything, paying the landlord, buying equipment, securing permits. She came home, exhausted, every evening and told me about her day, about the contractors she had hired, about the progress being made. She showed me photos of the space, of kitchen equipment being delivered, of tables and chairs being set up. I did not go to the location often. My knees hurt and the heat exhausted me. I trusted Gift to handle it. She was capable, organized, and determined. She texted me updates throughout the day, and I felt proud, knowing that we were building something together. But then the requests for more money began. First, she said, the kitchen equipment was more expensive than expected. She needed another 50,000 baht. I gave it to her. Then she said the permits required extra fees, bribes to local officials to speed things up. Another 80,000 baht, about $2,400. I gave it to her. Then, she said, the contractors had found problems with the plumbing and electrical wiring. Repairs would cost another 120,000 baht, about $3,600. This time I hesitated and asked whether we could see the space together. But she said the contractors were working, that it was a mess, and that it would be better to wait until it was finished. I gave her the money. By August, I had given her a total of $90,000. My savings had dropped from $420,000 to $330,000. I began to feel uneasy, but Gift reassured me. She said the restaurant was almost finished, that we would open in September, and that all the investment would be worth it. I wanted to believe her. I had to believe her. At the end of August, Gift told me that she needed to return to her village for a week. Her mother's condition had worsened, she said, and she needed to be there. I offered to go with her, but she said it was better if I stayed in Pattaya. Her village was remote, uncomfortable, and she did not want to burden me with it. I did not argue. I kissed her goodbye and watched her leave, feeling a strange unease that I could not fully explain. While she was gone, I decided to visit the restaurant. I wanted to see the progress for myself, to feel connected to the project we were building together. I took a motorbike taxi to the Soy and found the address Gift had given me. The shopfront was empty. The windows were covered with old newspapers, and a faded "For Rent" sign hung in the window. I stood there for a long time, staring at it. My heart pounded in my chest. I tried the door. It was locked. I peered through the gaps in the newspapers covering the windows. The space was completely empty. No kitchen equipment, no tables, no chairs, nothing. I felt sick. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone and called Gift, but she did not answer. I called again and again, and still there was no answer. I went back to the apartment and sat on the balcony, staring at my phone, waiting for her to call back. Hours passed. The sun went down. The street below filled with the usual noise of Pattaya nightlife. Music, laughter, motorbikes. But all I could hear was the silence from my phone. She finally called me the next morning. Her voice was bright, cheerful. She asked how I was, told me about her mother, about the village. I interrupted her. Gift, I went to the restaurant yesterday. There was a pause. Then she said, Why you go, Papa? I told you wait because I wanted you to see it. But there is nothing there, Gift. The place is empty. It is still for rent. Another pause. Longer this time. Then she said, her voice trembling, Papa, I can explain. The landlord lied to me. He took money and did not give me the space. I tried to fix it, but he is a very bad man. I am so sorry, Papa. I tried to get money back. You gave the landlord $90,000. Not all to him, she said quickly. Some for contractors, some for permits, some for equipment. But landlord, he take big part. I am so sorry. I fix this. I promise. I did not know what to believe. I wanted to believe her, but something felt wrong. I told her to come back to Pattaya immediately. She said she would come the next day, but she did not come back the next day or the day after that. She kept making excuses. Her mother needed her. The bus was full. She would come soon. I called her constantly, and sometimes she answered, her voice sweet and apologetic, but she never came back. 2 weeks later, I called the number she had been using, and it was disconnected. I did not know what to do. I felt paralyzed, trapped in a nightmare I could not wake from. I began asking around, speaking to other expats, trying to find out what had happened. One of them, an Australian man named Rob, who had been in Pattaya for 10 years, listened to my story and shook his head. Mate, you got scammed, he said. Classic long con. She played you from the beginning. The sick mother, the restaurant dream, all of it. I have seen it 100 times. I did not want to believe him, but deep inside I knew he was right. Rob helped me file a report with the local police. We went to the station on Soi 9, and I explained everything to an officer who listened with a bored expression. He asked whether I had contracts, any proof that the money had been stolen. I did not. I had given Gift the money voluntarily. She had promised to invest it in our business, but I had nothing in writing. The officer said, they could do nothing. In Thailand, he explained, if you give someone money as a gift or for a relationship, it does not count as theft. I could try to sue her in civil court, but without documentation, I had no case. I left the police station hollowed out, broken. $90,000 gone. Just gone. I went back to the apartment and sat on the balcony, staring down at the street, trying to process what had happened. Gift had taken everything, not only my money, but my trust, my hope, my belief that I could build a life with someone again. I began drinking heavily. I bought bottles of cheap Thai whiskey and sat on the balcony every evening, drinking until I could no longer think. Tom tried to check on me, but I pushed him away. I did not want to hear, I told you so. I did not want pity. One evening, a bar girl from a nearby bar saw me on the balcony and came up to talk. Her name was Lek, and she had known Gift. She sat down and, after a few drinks, told me the truth I had been avoiding. Gift had never stopped working. The whole time she was with me. She had been seeing several men and telling each of them the same story. The sick mother, the dream of a better life, the need for financial help. She had been texting and calling other men at night while lying beside me in bed. The restaurant had never been real. She had pocketed every dollar I gave her and shared it with a Thai boyfriend she had been with for years. Lek showed me Gift's Facebook page. There she was, smiling in photos with a young Thai man, sitting on a new motorbike, wearing expensive clothes, living a life funded by men like me. I felt something inside me break that night. Not only my heart, but something deeper. My self-worth, my belief that I was someone worth loving, someone worth being honest with. It has been more than a year since Gift disappeared. I am still in Pattaya, but not by choice. I cannot afford to leave. My savings are down to $40,000, and my pension barely covers the rent for the small room where I now live above a bar on Soy Heaven. I do not have the money to fly back to Milwaukee, and even if I did, I am not sure where I would go back to. The house is gone. I sold it before I left. I have no family there, no friends anymore. I spend my days walking through Pattaya and handing out flyers for an expat support group that helps scam victims. The group is run by volunteers, men who have gone through what I went through, who understand what it is like to lose everything to someone you loved. Some days I see Gift, or at least I think I see her. I walk down Soy Buakao or near Walking Street, and I see a woman with long black hair, and my heart stops. But it is never her. She is gone, vanished into the millions of people in Thailand, living her life, spending my money, moving on to the next victim. I do not blame Thailand for this. Thailand did not do this to me. Gift did. But I also know that I allowed it to happen. I ignored every warning sign, every red flag, because I was lonely, desperate to feel wanted again. I traded my security, my retirement, my future for the illusion of love. Tom's still checks on me. He brings me food sometimes, makes sure I am all right, even though I know he feels guilty for bringing me to this place. I tell him it is not his fault. I made my own choices. At night, I sit in my small room, listen to the noise from the bar below, and think about Barbara. She told me not to spend the rest of my life alone, but I think she would be devastated to see what trying to follow her advice cost me. I wanted to feel alive again. I wanted to feel loved. Instead, I lost everything that mattered. If you are watching this and thinking about moving to Thailand, meeting someone in a bar, investing in a business with someone you barely know, please learn from my mistake. Do not let loneliness blind you. Do not let the illusion of love cost you everything, because once it is gone, you cannot get it back. And the person who took it from you will not lose a single night of sleep over it. My name is George Jerry Walters, and this is my story, a romance from hell that cost me my retirement, my dignity, and my future. If this story touched you, please consider subscribing to this channel. These stories need to be told, and your support helps me continue documenting the reality behind romance scams that destroy lives every day. Thank you for watching, and please be careful out there.